Have you ever had one of those big, significant goals? Maybe studying overseas or launching a career that takes you global, or maybe just pushing your own limits.
Yeah, absolutely. And often a key step, kind of a gateway really, is getting through a standardized test like IELTS.
Exactly.
And IELTS, it's not just another exam, right? It's recognized everywhere as a benchmark for English skills. Our sources really drive home that a good score can genuinely open doors, education, jobs, you name it, in English-speaking places.
It really shows you can actually function day to day.
Precisely.
Which is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. Welcome, everyone, to the deep dive. We're here to cut through all the information overload and give you the real nuggets, the most important stuff on how to earn a good band score in IELTS. Think of this as your shortcut. We've gone through the material, and our mission is to pull out the key strategies, maybe some surprising facts, to help you understand what truly matters for hitting those higher scores.
And when we say higher scores, we're generally talking band 7.0 or above. Just so you know, a 7.0, that's called a good user. It means you handle the language pretty well, maybe with a few slip-ups here and there.
Okay.
Then you get 7.5 to 8.0, that's a very good user. And if you hit 8.5 or 9.0, well, that's excellent user territory.
Wow. Okay.
And the key thing is, your final score is an average across all four parts: listening, reading, writing, speaking. So you really need to perform consistently well in all of them.
Right. No weak links allowed, basically. Okay, so let's dive in. Where should we start? Maybe the listening section. It's got, 40 questions? What's the first big challenge there?
Well, often it's just getting used to the different ways people speak English.
Yeah.
But the resources we looked at give some really practical advice, like why using actual test audios, particularly from those Cambridge IELTS books, is so crucial.
Why is that? Is it just about practice?
It's more than just practice. It's about training your brain for the specific kind of listening the test demands. You're essentially building muscle memory for recognizing answer patterns under pressure. And yeah, definitely getting familiar with different accents, British, Australian, American, is vital because you will hear them all.
Okay, that makes sense. Something that jumped out at me from the sources was how the listening section isn't just linear. It gets harder as you go through the four parts. How should that affect how you practice?
That increasing difficulty is a really important design feature. And remember, you only hear the audio track once.
Just once. Okay, pressure's on.
Exactly. So concentration is absolutely key. A really useful tip, maybe slightly counterintuitive, is to try and predict answers. You do this by quickly reading the questions before the audio starts.
Ah, so you're priming yourself.
Precisely. It turns it from passive listening into more of an active hunt for specific information. And another critical detail, check your spelling and grammar on the answers.
Oh, right. Why is that so important?
Because if you spell a word wrong, even if the answer idea is correct, you get 0 marks for it. Simple as that.
Ouch. Okay, noted. Spelling counts. What about paraphrasing? The questions often use different words than the audio, right? How do you practice that skill?
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. You need to get good at recognizing the same idea dressed up in different words. So when you practice, don't just listen for the exact words from the question. Try rephrasing bits of the audio in your head, or even jotting down synonyms.
That makes sense.
And our sources suggest using things like IELTS prep apps, English podcasts, even just listening to the news in English regularly. It exposes you to how different people express the same concept.
Okay, good tips. So we've got our ears tuned. Let's switch to our eyes, the reading section. Also, 40 questions, and this one has 2 versions, right? Academic and general training.
That's right. Academic or general.
What's the core skill here? Just reading fast.
Not just fast reading, but smart reading. The guides really emphasize learning techniques like scanning, that's looking for specific details like a name or a date, and skimming, which is getting the overall gist of a passage quickly.
So you don't necessarily read every single word.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
That's the key. You need to be efficient. Identifying keywords in the questions and then spotting them or their synonyms in the text is crucial. They almost never use the exact same words.
And I guess the practice material matters too. Like for academic, you should be looking at journal articles, research stuff.
Exactly. Practice with the kind of text you'll actually face. So academic articles, summaries for the academic module. And for general training, it's more everyday things, letters, ads, workplace documents, that sort of thing.
Okay, so once you've got the techniques down, what's the big hurdle in reading?
Oh, hands down, it's timing. Timing is everything here. You've got just 60 minutes for 3 long passages and all the questions.
Wow, that's not much time per passage.
Not at all. You have to be really disciplined. And another thing our sources flag up is that some question types are particularly tricky. Things like true, false, not given, or matching headings, they really test your detailed understanding and require specific practice.
Right. This can be tough. So it's not just technique. Vocabulary must be pretty important too, especially maybe academic words.
Absolutely essential. You need a strong, broad vocabulary. For the academic test, yes, definitely a good grasp of academic language helps hugely. But for both tests, knowing words related to common IELTS topics, environment, tech, society, that helps you understand the passages much faster.
Okay, so vocabulary building is key. Right, we've covered taking information in, listening, and reading. Now, putting it out there, the writing section. 2 tasks here. Testing your ability to express ideas clearly in English. How do these tasks differ?
They differ quite a bit depending on the module. Task 1 academic means describing some kind of visual, a graph, a chart, maybe a process diagram, or a map. Whereas Task 1 general training is writing a letter. Could be formal, could be informal. For both, though, the aim is to report the information clearly and show you can use different sentence structures, show some range.
And then task 2 is the essay for both modules.
Yes, task 2 is always an essay on some general interest topic. Here, you need a clear opinion, strong arguments to back it up, maybe some examples, and a really solid structure, intro, body, paragraphs, conclusion.
What's the single best piece of advice for tackling these writing tasks? Is there a secret weapon?
Well, maybe not a secret weapon, but something incredibly effective that the guides highlight is planning. Seriously, spend maybe 5 minutes before you start writing, just organizing your thoughts.
Just 5 minutes.
Yep. It sounds like you're losing time, but it actually saves you time later and makes your writing much more coherent, much more logical, and coherence is vital. Using those linking words, however, furthermore, in contrast, helps your ideas flow. And try not to repeat words too much. Use synonyms.
Good point. Shows off your vocabulary. And timing again, I assume.
Oh, absolutely critical. You've got roughly 20 minutes for task 1 and 40 minutes for task 2. You have to practice writing under those time constraints.
And once you've practiced, how do you actually get better? How do you know if you're improving?
Feedback. Getting feedback is probably the most effective way. Find a tutor, maybe use one of those grammar checking apps or writing tools that look at coherence. It's really hard to spot your own mistakes in writing.
Yeah, true. An outside perspective helps. Okay, last section. Speaking, 3 parts. This is the face-to-face bit, testing fluency, pronunciation, coherence, grammar, the whole package. How do you prepare for something like that?
The best advice, honestly, is often the simplest. Just practice speaking.
Yeah.
Every day, even if you're just talking to yourself.
Really? Talking to yourself?
Yeah. And something really powerful our sources suggest is recording yourself speaking and then listening back.
Oh, I can see how that would be useful, if a bit cringy, maybe.
It can be.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly helpful for catching your own hesitations, pronunciation issues, maybe overusing certain words, things you just don't notice while you're talking.
Okay, good tip. And what's the big don't for this speaking test?
Oh, the absolute biggest don't is memorizing answers. Please don't do it.
Examiners can tell, right?
Instantly. It sounds completely unnatural, robotic. The goal is fluency, using a good range of words and grammar naturally, not reciting a script. It's okay to pause briefly to think, but too many long, awkward silences aren't great.
Right. So tell us about the 3 parts. What's expected in each?
Okay, part 1 is like an introduction, a warm-up. The examiner asks questions about familiar topics, work, study, hobbies. You should give short, natural answers here. Show you can communicate easily.
Okay.
Part 2 is the long turn or cue card. You get a topic card, you have 1 minute to prepare, and then you speak for up to 2 minutes. This tests your ability to organize your thoughts and speak at lengths.
1 minute prep, 2 minutes talk.
Got it. And part 3 is a discussion related to the part 2 topic. Here, the questions become more abstract, more complex. You need to give longer, more developed answers, support your opinions, maybe discuss different viewpoints.
So it gets progressively more demanding. Okay, we've gone through all 4 sections. Let's pull back a bit. What about overall preparation strategy? Taking mock tests seems important.
Hugely important. Taking full mock tests under timed conditions is crucial. It does 2 things. Builds your stamina, it's a long test, and really sharpens your time management skills for the actual exam day.
Like a dress rehearsal.
Exactly. Think of it like running practice races before a marathon. You need to know you can go the distance. And after those mock tests, identify your weak spots. Don't just look at the score. Figure out why you lost marks and focus your practice there. Targeted practice is way more effective.
Makes sense. And resources. There's so much stuff out there for IELTS prep. How do you choose?
Stick to high-quality stuff. The guides consistently recommend the official Cambridge IELTS books. They use real past paper questions. Websites like IELTS Liz, IELTS Simon, they have great free tips and practice. And definitely use the official practice materials from the British Council and IDP.
Official sources are best.
Generally, yes. And maybe consider joining a study group or even taking a prep course, online or offline. Learning with others, getting structured input, it can make a real difference for some people. But the absolute main thing, be consistent. A little bit every day is much better than cramming.
Right. Consistency beats intensity sometimes. You mentioned a sample study plan in the sources, like for 2 months.
Yeah, gives a good structure.
Yeah.
Weeks 1 and 2, focus on just understanding the basics of each section, maybe start building vocabulary lists.
Okay, foundation first.
Then weeks 3 and 4, start doing timed practice for each section daily. Really get used to the clock ticking.
Getting into the rhythm.
Weeks 5 and 6. This is where you really focus on refining, especially writing and speaking. Get feedback. Work hard on those weak areas you identified from mock tests.
Okay, targeted improvement.
And then the final stretch, weeks 7 and 8. More full mock tests, review all your strategies, brush up on grammar points. It's about consolidating everything and building confidence.
That sounds like a solid plan. It really shows how breaking it down makes it manageable.
Definitely. And tying it all together, it's this kind of systematic approach using specific strategies tailored to how the IELTS test actually works that helps you get that score you need. It's not just about your English level in general, it's about mastering the test itself.
Right. Understanding the game, not just knowing the rule.
Exactly. That understanding is what gives you the edge.
So the real takeaway from this deep dive, hopefully for you listening, is that there is a structured path. There are specific actionable things you can do drawn from these expert sources to really boost your IELTS score. But it hinges on that consistent, focused practice across all 4 skills.
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's something to think about as we wrap up. Based on everything we've discussed today, all the tips for listening, reading, writing, speaking, what's the one single thing, maybe a strategic shift or a section you need to focus on that you will start doing first in your IELTS prep? What's the first domino you'll push that could make the biggest difference for your specific situation and learning style? Have a think about that. How can you apply one of these insights right away to get your journey started?